Land Railway System, or LRS, is a subsidiary of PT Land Industry Persero, which has been established since 2012 to fulfill various needs in railway sector, with long experience in railway sector for almost 30 years. LRS becomes a market leader in E&M railway sector in Indonesia, including products, engineering, and services. In a regional market, LRS has been acknowledged as a strategic partner to develop turnkey E&M system and perform multinational partnership in turnkey E&M system field, both for light rail and heavy rail. LRS acquire both national and regional large-scale projects according to its great work and experiences. As to prove our commitment in reaching our vision and mission, LRS products such as SealSafe 4000 and SealTrack LS 3000 has been certified by Ministry of Industry for domestic component level. LRS has been certified by the International Engineering Certification through ERCE, Certified Professional Engineering PII, and Company Certification ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and OHSAS 80001. LRS the most reliable world-class partner for railway system and turnkey light rail E&M system. And our mission is to contribute improving people productivity and mobility through delivering reliable and safe railway system. We are Land Railway System with innovation, engineering, services, and partnership with delivery safety and capacity. Land Railway System, or LR.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For your information, please scan the barcode on your screen for registration, and after the event, we will send you e-certificate of Harhubnas 2022. Once again, please scan the barcode on your screen for registration, and after the event, we will send you the email of e-certificate from Harhubnas 2022. Selamat malam dan selamat bergabung kepada seluruh attendee. Untuk Anda semua kami persilahkan untuk dapat scan barcode yang ada di layar Anda Dan setelah acara selesai, kami akan mengirimkan e-certificate melalui alamat email. Terima kasih. Sekali lagi selamat malam dan selamat bergabung. Kepada seluruh peserta, kami persilakan Anda untuk melakukan scan barcode yang ada di layar Anda. Dan setelah acara selesai, kami akan mengirimkan e-certificate ke alamat email Anda masing-masing. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? Our session is about to begin in a minute. Please prepare yourself and thank you for your attention. Hadirin para peserta dari webinar hari ini, acara kita akan segera dimulai. Silakan persiapkan diri Anda dan terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to International Webinar Harhubnas 2022, Development Strategy Urban Mass Transport Railways in Indonesia. First of all, let's say thank God who has been giving us guidance, happiness, healthy and mercy so we can attend and participate in this event. My name is Hales Tanjung. It is a wonderful and precious for me to be your master of ceremony. For the next, I would like to give a warm welcome to the Honorable Minister of Transportation Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi, Country Director for Indonesia and Timur-Leste World Bank, Mrs. Satu Kahkonen, represented by Lead Energy Specialist and Infrastructure Program Leader for Indonesia and Timur-Leste, Ms. Claudia Vasquez, AD Interim Director General of Railways, Mr. Zulma Fendi, represented by Director of Railways Rolling Stock, Bapak Jarod Triwardono, Managing in charge of Europe and US Markets Development Junior Company, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida, Vice President Urban Platform Alstom, Mrs. Paloma Moran, represented by Alstom Urban Platform Technical Director, Mr. Colin Scott, Senior Railway Specialist World Bank, Mrs. Martha Lawrence. Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is singing National Anthem of Indonesia. Kindly all respective guests, please stand up for singing Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya. Thank you for singing Indonesia Raya, and please have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to present to you the video from Ministry of Transportation, Republic of Indonesia. Please enjoy the video.
For urban society, congestion is an obstacle due to the travel times are too long. Meanwhile, the road has a restricted capacity. Therefore, transportation is expected to be a solution, especially by urban society. With a large carrying capacity and fast travel time, urban trains are increasingly competitive compared to other modes of transportation. Urban train modes in big cities currently are Jabodetabek KRL or Electric Multiple Unit, Jogja Solo KRL, Jakarta MRT, Jakarta LRT, and Palembang LRT. Urban railways will be enlarged in big cities such as Bandung, Surabaya, Medan, Makassar, Semarang, Bali, and IKN. Urban railways can be integrated with other transport modes, such as airport trains, trains to ports, business center, government center, and cluster. The Directorate General of Railways, as the regulator that manage the implementation of National Railways, presents the webinar, Strategy for the Development of Urban Ways Transportation of Railways in Indonesia.
Okay, that was the video about our topics, development strategy, urban mass transport railways in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Country Director for Indonesia and Timor-Leste, World Bank, Mrs. Satu Kahkonen, represented by Lead Energy Specialist and Infrastructure Program Leader for Indonesia and Timor-Leste, Ms. Claudia Vasquez.
Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi, and all participants. It gives me great pleasure to be here with you to give this keynote speech on behalf of the World Bank Country Director for Indonesia and Timor-Leste at the webinar Strategy for the Development of Urban Mass Transport Railways in Indonesia. Indonesia, the world's fourth most populous country, is becoming increasingly urban. Today, over half of the population lives in cities. By 2045, which will be the centenary of Indonesia's independence, nearly 3/4 will. In 2020, Indonesia had 15 cities with a population greater than 1 million and around 12 cities with population between 500,000 and 1 million. For the 20 million jobs created between 2001 and 2011, 18 million were in urban areas, making a major shift in the employment base to cities. The agglomeration effects generated by the proximity of people and activities in urban areas are a key factor of Indonesia's success. However, congestion is among the main factors negatively impacting today economic growth and equality in Indonesian cities. While urbanization has helped deliver prosperity, it provided economic and social opportunities and stimulated innovation in Indonesia. It has not done so at the same extent as in many of its neighboring countries. Traffic congestion negatively impacts economic growth and equality. Efficient mobility in urban areas is therefore key to ensuring that the economic competitiveness of the cities and therefore of the countries moves forward. This is especially significant given that almost 60% of Indonesian GDP originates from urban areas, which accounted only for 53% of the population. If cities are congested and the workforce spends long, unproductive hours commuting, the growth potential and productivity are compromised. Cities host labor markets, and mobility is what makes these labor markets grow. We have also seen a trend of increased private transport dependency in Indonesian cities. Residents need motorized transport to reach jobs, education, and social activities, and the convergence and quality of public transport provided today may not offer a credible alternative to motorcycle and cars. Unfortunately, this has resulted in unsustainable growth in car and motorcycle ownership, and consequently a high level of motorization. The use of motorcycles is growing exponentially, as all of you know. In Greater Jakarta, the share of motorcycle use has grown from 22% in 2002 to 78% in 2018. So what is the answer? Efficient, safe, affordable, and clean transit can help transform urban areas. The share of public transport usage compared to private modes is relatively low in Indonesian cities. Cities that have invested most in mass transit, such as Jakarta and Bandung, have a public transportation model share of only 10%. If you look at the region, you can see that large and rapidly growing cities in China, for example, manage to get between 20 to 30% of modal share for public transport, while other more developed and major Asian cities where there is a well-developed public transport network, including Seoul, Singapore, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Mumbai, and Kolkata, achieve modal share of public transport of more than 50%. Again, this compares to just 10% in cities such as Jakarta and Bandung. So what is Indonesia? Indonesia has, however, made important progress over the past few years. It is now recognized that the public transport agenda needs to be a national public transport agenda needs to be implemented, or otherwise it will result in much larger future costs for cities as they keep growing and get more congested. Given the multiple constraints at subnational levels, the establishment of a national program that would support mass transit development is now seen as a necessity. And the government of Indonesia has identified that it is in the national interest to support efficient and livable cities to promote economic growth and the quality of life of the citizens. In this context, the World Bank has collaborated with and is collaborating with the Ministry of Transport on the Indonesia Mass Transit Project, which focuses on road-based mass transit and supports Ministry of Transport with the development of a national program of assistance, and in parallel with the development of the 2 demonstration bus rapid transit projects in the Greater Bandung and Greater Medan. Railways-based mass transit, which is the topic of today's webinar, can play a significant role in urban transport. Railways can be a major urban transit mode in large dense cities. UMTR, as it is known, has comparative advantage to other modes, such as capacity, it goes fast, it delivers transportation in an environmentally friendly way, and it is reliable. It can move very large volumes of people relatively quickly and efficiently, and it is, from what we have seen in the world, an effective solution for densely trafficked corridors. For example, the Mumbai Suburban Rail moves roughly 7 million passengers daily, and the Jakarta Commuter Rail carries more than 1 million passengers per day. However, the development of UMTR is expensive and requires significant investment. Also, further integration with other public transportation modes, such as the BRT, other bus services, land use, etc., can be complicated, and there is a need for funding and financial commitment and a strong enabling environments in terms of policy and regulations and institutions that will deliver the optimal impact and foreseen results of the UMTR. The large investments that I discussed earlier really involved and require a concerted effort where funding sources can be identified and can be realized. And for this, different approaches have been adopted in cities around the world for the development of rail transit. While there are success stories, there have been many failures as well. The World Bank has deep expertise in this area, having supported governments across the world in Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, India, China, and others. And we will be very glad to share these lessons learned later on the webinar. We are very glad to see the interest of the Ministry of Transport in this important area of rail mass transit financing, and we are very honored to partner with the government in this important agenda. I look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Claudia Vasquez. You have delivered an enlightening speech. And for the next keynote speech and also opening remarks, I would like to invite Minister of Transportation, Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi.
Distinguished country manager of the World Bank for Indonesia and Timor-Leste, the Honorable Director General of Railway and Echelon 2 official of the Ministry of Transportation, Ministry, Agency, and local government official, representative, SOA, LOA, universities, association, organization, the speaker of this webinar, ladies and gentlemen. On this great opportunity, let us express our gratitude to President of Allah SWT for His grace to all us. That today we can participate in the webinar Development Strategy Urban Mass Transport Railway in Indonesia, which had in order to celebrate the National Transportation Days 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, congestion can be caused by the lack of roadway capacity as well as the volume of vehicle increase. Therefore, an alternative reliable mode of the urban transportation is needed and solution to the problem congestion in the big city in Indonesia is undeniable. Currently, the railway transport play a major role, especially for commuter trip, urban railway, because the railway is very reliable. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the public railway system that exists in Indonesia is the district urban railway system. In this regard, the development of LRT and MRT as well as local Raya City Line. Jabodetabek EMU, Electric Multiple Unit, Jogja Solo, EMU will support and serve as urban railway are significant to ensure the smooth and seamless movement of people in urban areas. Ladies and gentlemen, in development of national capital city in Kementerian, urban rail transportation planning is needed in order to create transportation that is interconnected between one mode of transportation with one another, such as airport, port, business center, housing, and government center. Therefore, it takes a strong encouragement and commitment from each stakeholder so can be carried out properly and on target. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope the webinar are able to provide benefit and constructive input not only to the government but also to the business world and the community in the order to realize and synergistic and integrated infrastructure development to support sustainable transportation development. In a nation, it's necessary for foster sense of belonging with the full sense of responsibility to join build and maintain railway infrastructure for mutual comfort and safety. I would like to thank the speaker, both domestic and foreign, panelists and moderator for participating in this webinar, and also the committee for the holding this event. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always bless our effort together. Furthermore, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, the webinar Development Strategy Urban Mass Transport Railway in Indonesia officially declare it's open. May Allah Ta'ala always bless our effort together. That is all, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us all. Shalom, Om Swasti, Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you so much, Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi, Minister of Transportation, Republic of Indonesia, for opening remarks and also keynote speech. For now, we're going to take a photo together to the photo session, and I would like to invite Ms. Claudia Vasquez and also Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi. Okay, are you ready in 3, 2, 1? Thank you so much, Ms. Claudia and also Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to our main agenda, and all presentation and discussion will be guided by our moderator, Bapak Linus Andor Maulana Sijabat, and allow me to read his short bio. Okay, Mr. Linus Andor Maulana Sijabat, born in Tapanuli Utara, 4 March 1969. Work experience, Technology and Operation Director of PT Land Railway System, General Manager UBC Trans, Director Operation 1, and Director of Business Strategy and Portfolio. Please welcome Mr. Linus Andor Maulana Sijabat.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lestari Tanjung.
How are you today, Mr. Linus?
Good, very good.
Okay, are you ready to guide our discussion for today's event?
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, please, Mr. Linus, the time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So from now on, allow me to become a moderator of this webinar. So the structure will be four speakers. Four speakers will be presenting the papers, yeah, and then there will be 3 panelists, very experienced panelists from Indonesia. So for our first speaker will be Pak Julma Fendi. Pak Julma Fendi now is acting Director General of DGR of MOT, yeah. But for the session will be represented by Pak Jarod Triwardono, yeah. And our second speaker is Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. He is a manager in charge of Europe and US market development of GR company. And our third speaker will be Ms. Palma Moran. She is a vice president of urban platform from Alstom. For this moment, she will be represented by Mr. Colin Scott. And our fourth speaker is from World Bank. She is a very senior railway specialist from World Bank. Yeah. And after that, so there will be 3 panelists: Pak Muhammad Effendi, Pak Agung Sedayu, and Professor Siti Malkama. So first of all, allow me to introduce the bio of Pak Julma Fendi. Yeah, for For this moment, Pak Zulma Fendi will be represented by Pak Jarod Triwardono. So, Pak Jarod, how are you, Pak?
Fine, Pak Linus.
Baik ya, Pak. Okay, Pak. I think Pak Jarod, you have about 20 minutes to deliver your papers, ya. Okay. Time is yours, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Linus. Pak Linus Hijabat as moderator. On behalf of Ad Interim Director General of Railways, I'm going to present the material of this webinar. Our purpose is to explain the policy and the development mass transport railway in Indonesia. Next. As we aim to fulfill our vision in 2030, we come with 6 strategies to support the development of railways. Then these strategies are investment and fund, network service enhancement, security and safety enhancement, technology transfer and industrial development, human resources development, and institutional development. Next. According to Law 23 of 2007 and government ordinance and more than 60 minister transportation decrees, there are 7 points spirit of national railways regulation that routing on our national railways, regional railways, and local railways to create a better railway system which open both state-owned enterprise and private sectors, multi-operator, community participation, autonomy, state guarantees for railway services, customer protection, and compliance rate of disabled. Next. Here are our national railway master plan, which on 2030. We targeted to achieve these 7 points here. 2 out of 7 targets that we emphasize are increasing railway share number to 7 until 9% of passenger, and increasing railway share number to 11 to 13% for freight transport. To achieve those targets, we are programming 10,524 kilometers national railways network in 2030, include urban railways on 3,755 kilometers, and also increasing the amount of rolling stock. Next. Now, let me show you the target of railway infrastructure development on our middle term planning 2020 to 24, which is 7,451 kilometers. The target is consists of some projects of development railways infrastructure at Sumatera region, Jawa, Bali region, Kalimantan region, and Sulawesi region. And from those projects, we have the major project are Makassar Parepare line, Jakarta Bandung high speed train, and speed improvement Jakarta Surabaya step 1 on the segment Jakarta Semarang, and urban mass rail transport in 6 metropolitan regions such as Jakarta, Surabaya, Bandung, Medan, Semarang, and Makassar. Next. These are investment and funding needs. Previously, as middle fund development plan from 2015 and 2019, the amount of investment was around $19 billion, with proportion 30% invested by private and public-private partnership, and the rest funded, which is 60% by the government. But now, as long-term development plan, the amount of investment costs around $65 billion, with the bigger portion around 64% of investment by private and project public-private partnership, and the rest funded by government. The next. Cooperation opportunity with the private sector divided in three aspects as trade cooperation, infrastructure financing, and research and development. For trade cooperation, cooperation opportunity can be on railways material trade opportunity and railway rolling stock trade opportunity. For infrastructure financing, cooperation opportunity can be on financing on airport, link, railway, special railway, and urban railway. And for research and development, cooperation opportunity can be on development railway research institute and research on railway technology and the pattern of rail operation. Next. This is the scheme of PPP structure in Indonesia. We have government facilities which are availability gap fund, government guarantee, and land acquirement. On other side, investment return scheme can be implemented on user charge, availability payment, and other legal form. For availability payment, we have an experience on Makassar Pare-Pare line. Next. Earlier, we talked about national railways, regional railways, and local railways, and here is the distribution of our national railways project all over Indonesia. Several of our project is already done, such as 2 projects in Sumatra and 2 projects in Java. The rest is still ongoing and still under preparation to be conducted. We hope that this project can be done on the schedule. Next. Here are 5 urban railway achievement and progress. From all of this, as we know, that the LRT project in South Sumatra has been going well since 2018, has already completed and operated. Moving on to LRT Jabodebek, that already reached 92% of progress for the first segment. The third one, MRT from North Jakarta to South Jakarta, is progressing 12% for phase 2A from Bundaran HI to Kota, and still on licensing process for the phase 2B from Kota to West Ancol. The last 2 projects may have not developed yet on the field, but we are progressing. For LRT Jakarta from JIS to Kelapa Gading line is under financial discussion with DKI Jakarta government, and MRT from East to West Jakarta is under discussion on engineering services and design. Next. Financing need on strategic planning to 2020 to 2024 amount 210 trillion rupiah. For government budget portion is 30 and alternative financing is 70%. This concession is be done such as New Jakarta Jakate, New Station Jakate, Jakarta Bandung High Speed Train, Soekarno-Hatta Airport Line, Sukacinta Serdang Station. On other side, segment 1 South Sumatra region, LRT Jabodebek, Tiga Raksa station improvement are on progress station. To conclude, I like to say the policy, development, and opportunity for alternative financing will be support to achieve our target. Next. Well, this brings me to the end to my presentation. Thank you. Pak Linus, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Jarod. Thank you, very nice presentation, and a huge budget, yeah, huge plan for the urban transport. Thank you, Pak. Okay, now I want to invite a second speakers, second speaker from Japan GR company, Miss Kazuhiko Aida.
Hello.
Mr. Kazuhiko, are you with us?
Yes. Good evening.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida.
Good afternoon.
So, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida is a manager in charge of Europe and US market development of GR company. Oh, very experienced, very expert, yeah. So, how are you? You're in Japan or in Europe?
I'm in Japan right now, in Tokyo.
Ah, yeah. Hope you are well, yeah? Hope you're well.
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you very much for being a speaker in our webinar, yeah. So this is a webinar in Harhubnas. Harhubnas is what you call it, like a celebration of transportation day in Indonesia. So it's very important for us. As you may already know from Pak Jarod, a lot of plan for the urban transport. Yeah, you know our populations. I think our population now about maybe 2 or 3 times the Japan. Yeah, 2 or 3 times Japan.
Yes. Japan's population is
100 million.
120. Yes.
Yeah, we are avoid going double or triple. Yeah,
yes.
For population, and we have also a lot of cities that. I think right now we really need the urban transport, yeah, very reliable. So your presentations will be making railway sustainable. It's very important topic, I think. So, yeah. Without further ado, I will ask you to deliver your speech. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. So time is yours, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida.
Can you? Can you see my slides?
Yes, clear.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to make a presentation in this seminar. I'm Kaz Aida. I'm from East Japan Railway Company, JR East, and I'll make a presentation on making railways sustainable. I mean, what JRE is doing to make our railways sustainable. Before that, I'd like to make a brief outline of our company. As you see, we are kind of transportation service company. The business area is in green on the map. And we have metropolitan transport and high-speed rail and also regional trains. And the network length will be about 7,400 kilometers, and we provide services to around 12 million people. And actually, COVID-19 is really badly affect our business. So actually, as you can see, annual operating revenue is really minus things. So attach the number in fiscal year 2019. So just for your reference. And besides the transportation services, we do a non-railway business like hotels and the sports and leisure business, the shopping centers, and the retail business and the restaurants at stations or around stations, and the real estate management. We have almost 70 subsidiaries. And as a JR East Group revenue, 70 comes from transport business and 30% comes from non-rail business. That's us. So, and now going to the title. When we listen, people listen to hear sustainability. The people tend to associate sustainable railways with environmental friendly railways. Of course, environmental friendliness is a really key factor for sustainability, but as you notice, it's not the only one. To let more and more passengers use railways is really support railways being sustainable. By doing so, for railways, safety and improvement of customer experience, and making stations or railways more attractive to passengers, and the environmental friendliness are key issues. So right now, from now on, I'd like to introduce what we are doing, what Jerry is doing in terms of these points of views. The first one is safety. Like any other railways in the world, safety is also a top priority of management. Safety has our company also safety has been our top management priority, and we have been and will be working relentlessly to move up our levels of safety in both tangible and intangible aspects. And this slide shows the examples of intangible aspects. Left-hand side, we set up a 5-year JRE group safety plan, and to share its vision, 5-year vision among staff members. And we also just in the middle of slides, as you see, we also foster the mindsets of our staff members to improve safety with kind of creating 5 safety cultures or 3 actualities principles and so on. A little bit explanation for 5 cultures and 3 actualities principles are needed here, so I'll explain to it. 5 safety cultures is kind of basics to prevent accidents. It's natural, just reporting, noticing, and discussion and learning. It's really natural thing, but people can do so, you know, in any other situation. So we just create the workplace like where we can doing these things, reporting, noticing, and discussion freely. So with no hasslement. So that's the concept. And the bottom one is 3 actualities principle. This means is in a nutshell is safety issues is happening on site. So solutions and clues to solutions can be found on site. So don't think about safety issues in a headquarters or, you know, on desks. It just bring on site happening on site together and to think about this, what the safety is. That's the concept. So, and now, as you see on the picture on the right-hand side, actually, education we've been doing very seriously. So we established a general education center. It's a big education center here. And we have 12 branch offices, and each branch office has its own training center. So we are educating our staff members very seriously. And also, as you see the middle one, an accident history exhibition hall, we put up this hall, and various kinds of accidents in the past are exhibited, and staff members can learn lessons from the accident in the past. That's a very education premises. And this one is slide is kind of aspect of tangible. In the graph in the middle, trends in safety investment. Actually, we are spending a lot of money on capital investment, and notably, half of the capital investment goes to safety. And the green bar is a kind of investment, represent investment for safety. So now you understand it. And especially signaling is really important part of safety. So when you look at the map on the left, this is a kind of our current situation of installation of ATSP and ATC. And ATS is a backup device to prevent human errors by drivers. This device is also to ensure reliable operation by curbing train delays caused by those human errors. So this is a really important one, ATS and ATSP is. And also in terms of capital investment for the safety, this is the example of other approaches. Our approach of safety investment on facilities like platforms, on level crossings, as well as countermeasures against natural disasters, such as earthquakes and so on. But as you see in these, the upright graph, you're seeing actually in terms of numbers of accidents and also disruptions, we are seeing the downward trend. But however, we still have many accidents and disruptions. So actually, the conclusion is that our journey to ensure safety never ends. We continue to work on safety. So this is the issue of safety. And the second one is improvement of CX. Like safety, we create kind of service quality reform vision. And based on this vision, we doing improvement of CEX. And actually feedback from customers are really important for us. So we eagerly collect and analyze common customer opinions on daily basis in order to understand the concerns and the frustrations of our customers and to respond to them properly. And we create with these comments, we create another innovation or another kind of services, to live up to their expectations. Actually, last year we have over 21,000 comments from customers, and we utilize these. And also on the bottom one, the key things. Actually, transportation service is our core business. We are working on 5 priority points, and all employees of the group, JRE Group, are striving together to enhance the quality of transportation services. The pictures on the left bottom are the examples of our measures based on these 5 points. And I'm not attaching the picture here, but information display where you can find disrupted lines, disrupted trains in terms of train disruptions at stations or on board. We set up those display there. And also information provision by our application is another example. So I said the customer focus approach is really important, but also reliability of rolling stock and also reliability improvement by rolling stock and also infrastructure maintenance are really key factor for customer experience. I mean, less train disruptions lead to better customer satisfaction. This slide is a document from the Department for Transport, Thailand. Actually, JRE Group is involved in Purple Line in Bangkok, Purple Transport in Bangkok. The rolling stock on the line is manufactured by our subsidiary company JTREC, and also the maintenance of rolling stock and also infrastructure facilities done by JTT, which are funded by our company and also a Japanese trade company and also a Japanese manufacturer. And this pie chart is kind of statistics of train service failures by railway line, and actually Purple Line cases is just 1%. It's really extremely different from the other lines. Actually, the numbers on the besides the pie chart, you can see it's a big difference between the numbers. So I can proudly present you with our level of technology and our performance. And the third one, making railway stations more attractive to passengers and the communities. The 8 pictures on the right-hand side, at first, I explained that a JRE group has or doing non-rail business, and this is the example. Actually, we have been various kinds of developments, big or small, mainly in Tokyo metropolitan area, like Tokyo Station, Ueno Station, Shinjuku Station, Yokohama Station, Shibuya Station, you name it. We have been various kinds of developments. And we have a section specializing in these developments. So in this sense, our company has a lot of experience in terms of TOD, transit-oriented development. And also we have we launched Beyond the Stations concept with the left-hand side picture. We think stations are not merely places where people get on the trains or pass through or meet. Rather, we think the stations are kind of hubs which connects surrounding facilities, communities, passengers, people around surrounding the area with stations. And by doing so, we can create new value in people's lives out of it. This is the new concept. We launched this concept. And the last one is the involvement. Of course, like other companies, we set up a zero carbon challenge. We would like to highlight 2 things here. With these challenges, we set the target at the bottom one. We set our targets on CO2 emissions to net zero by 2050. And also in the picture in the middle, the train, this is a hydrogen fuel vehicle. Which is right now under development. We are currently test running this train set on a certain line near Tokyo. Result is not yet published, but we are doing well, I hope. And this is the case of involvement. And the last and not least, I'd like to show this slide. Actually, for many years, we've been collaborating with railways in Indonesia in terms of the transfer of rolling stocks and the rolling stock maintenance and safety and the service quality. And these charts are the examples of our collaborations. Again, as railway operators like railways in Indonesia, GRE has been working with railways in Indonesia for rail technology improvement and human resources development, especially frontline staff members through these these shown here. So this approach, I should say, this approach can never seen in the other area of the world, even in US or even in Europe, I think. So, as my final word, we hope to continue to develop together with Indonesia through various collaborations. That's my final word. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. Very, very, very nice, yeah. Very nice presentations. So, very interesting for us, yeah. I believe our panelists, at least I saw in my screen, Professor Malkama and Muhammad Effendi write a lot of questions.
Yes.
I see both of them
writing
questions. So later on, I think there will be a Q&A session from our panelists, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I will invite for the third speakers is from Miss Paloma Moran. In this, she is a vice president of urban platform from Alstom. In this session, will be represented by Mr. Colin Scott. Mr. Colin Scott, are you with us?
I am. Yes, thank you.
Okay. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. And you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. So you are in Europe, in Paris, or in
the UK?
UK. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being one of our speaker, yeah, in our webinar. So your topic will be sustainable urban rail solutions, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
In this, you will present the rolling stock in rolling stock side or in infrastructure side?
Rolling stock.
Rolling stock. Okay. Here we have our panelists from PT Inka. I believe you know him, Pak Agung Sedayu. So many of us are waiting. How do we make how to make sustainable, yeah, urban rail solution, especially for the rolling stock, yeah. So without further ado, time is yours, sir. Okay. Please.
So I'll share the presentation. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present Alstom's strategy and solutions on sustainable urban transport. So just a slight background for me. So I'm the technical director for the urban platform. So Paloma is my boss, and I work in developing new products for metro and urban transport opportunities. So a bit about my background. So I started with British Rail Engineering in 1987, then through ABB, Adtrans, Bombardier, and now Alstom. So predominantly designing and working with metro projects. So within Alstom, our sort of ambition around sustainable and green mobility. So we have a key strapline for the company that says mobility by nature, and that sort of underpins a lot of our ambition and our approach to how we want to see the future. So currently we're doing a lot of analysis around what the future of urban transport will be, and we're looking at incremental steps from 2025 through to 2050. And when you look at all the predictions around the migration of the population into cities, when we're looking at 70 to 75% of our global population living in urban areas by 2050, that sort of means somewhere between 200 and 300% increase in the need for public transport. But to allow that to happen, that also needs to be thought differently. It can't just be the solution we have today. So within Alstom for some years now, we've had our strategic plan, which was called AIM 2025. So this was top down from our Chief Executive Officer, Honorable Paz Lafarge, and this is supported and driven and reviewed at a regular basis. So around that, we have 3 key pillars, which are grow, innovate, and deliver. Within the innovate area, our 3 key leadership areas are green mobility, smart mobility, and inclusive and healthier mobility. And whilst inclusive mobility has been something that's been key for us for some years, clearly the last couple of years with the pandemic, it's made us focus much more on healthier mobility as well. So the company itself, so Alstom is a total solution provider. And with the exclusion of China, we're the #1 rolling stock, the #1 services, and the #1 turnkey system provider in the world. We're also now #2 in terms of providing signalling. Our overall sort of landscape, we have in excess of 1,000 customers. We currently have order backlogs in terms of 81 billion euros. And with the acquisition of Bombardier, we now have in excess of 74,000 employees working across more than 70 countries globally. So while we are a big global company, we also have strong local presences in the key areas we do a lot of business. Within our approach to how we develop our trains and our solutions, we spend a substantial amount of money each year on the activities that allow us to incrementally improve our products, but also on the pure research and development activities that establish our new solutions for the future. A large proportion of that budget is currently biased towards supporting sustainable priorities. And we have actively managed roadmaps to achieve net zero carbon position with our value chain by 2050.
So what?
In terms of some of our key enablers for decarbonisation of mobility, so one we use within this urban type environment is what we call HESOP. It's a trademarked solution to provide small substations which allow us big operational benefits in terms of energy consumption, and I'll discuss that slightly more after this slide. The next one is our hydrogen Caradia island solution. So we have worked extensively with both batteries and with hydrogen powered solutions for almost 10 years now, with the first hydrogen train going into limited passenger service in 2018. But just last month, one of our German operators has changed its line completely 100% to hydrogen trains. So we now have a complete line that previously ran diesel vehicles running 100% hydrogen trains. Then for our metro product family, we have the Metropolis product family, which is a flexible and variable set of solutions that allow us to configure the solutions to meet the market. But key within that is sustainability objectives around low energy use, low weight, and high recyclability. And as well as hydrogen, we also have a range of energy storage solutions, both with batteries and with high supercapacitor solutions, depending on the application. Then one of the other key areas where we see operational benefit in energy use is fully unattended driverless systems, what they call grade of automation 4. So there is no driver, no attendant on the train, they're fully automated. This gives us the ability to really optimize the use of energy. And then while we look at the use of energy in the full life cycle of a train, something like 76% of the energy is through the operation that's live, but excluding operation, when we step back, it's the manufacturing part that dominates the use of energy. So in our factories, like in the photograph in our Sri city in India, we extensively use solar panels to try and maximize the use of sustainable power inputs. Energy efficiency. So I mentioned that we use hydrogen, which we class a low density system. We use HESOP, which is our energy recovery system, which is better suited to applications where they have high energy demands. So that can either be due to high speed or rapid acceleration, rapid braking, metro type operations. So our ability to generate energy back into the network through the braking cycle, and as we're progressing more and more to have 100% use of non-friction braking, it's important that we can manage that energy in a good way. And historically, the use of things like brake resistors cause problems in tunnels. So we're really striving to maximize the use of frictionless braking for a variety of reasons. And then in our sort of city traffic, our light rail vehicle, our tram operations, we have a variety of solutions there as well around our APS systems, which are something that a lot of our customers like because it doesn't require catenary. So it's an embedded ground-based third rail pickup system. And then we also have our supercap system, which allows us to move from one stop to the next, recharge and keep boosting the train on. So the HESOP system itself, so this is a reversible substation, and what makes it quite different from previous solutions is it has a single converter, rectifier and inverter. So this allows us to really optimize the power use in the traction mode of the vehicle, but importantly, it allows us to capture and recover energy in the braking mode. So this gives us benefits in that it actually can be used directly, it can be used within the station, or it can be fed back into the network. Now these HESOP solutions, we now have 125 solutions sold, 38 are already fully in commercial service in London, Milan, Panama, Hamburg, Hanover, Dubai and Sydney, and other systems coming on stream in the next couple of years in Toulouse, Tel Aviv, Athens and Riyadh. So when we look at the sort of four parts of the benefit of HESOP, so environmentally friendly solution, so it reduces CO2 emissions, so 90% of the energy is recovered and used in a good way. It provides better internal air quality for passengers, so that is the temperature within the tunnel, and it reduces any of the brake dust historically that we had problems with in old systems. Because that 99% available energy is recovered, less energy overall is consumed. It allows us to remove brake resistors from the train. These are what cause the temperature, but they also are heavy, which means they use more energy to move the train. Then infrastructure costs. So these installations allow us to either have 25% less than a traditional solution or increase traffic by 40% with the same solution. And because we're reducing the heat dissipation in the tunnel, it means then that the stations need less air conditioning to keep the passenger environment in the stations at a comfortable temperature. The catenary-less solutions for cities. So as I said, we have two where we use batteries and supercaps. These allow short journeys, then recharge at the station. So either through inductive or other methods, we increase the power back into the battery. You really want to maintain short distances because the mass of batteries then becomes prohibitive. So this is a solution where you have short journeys, multiple stops. The APS solution, as we can see here, is a much less intrusive solution, therefore much more attractive to cities than fitting overhead wires and catenary in the streets. Next is our fully automated driverless unattended metros. So we have well in excess of 500 metros in service worldwide. Over and above that, we also have our monorail products and our people movers that we use in cities and in airports. So we have extensive knowledge and use and expertise within fully unattended operation. The next level down is, and we have a lot of customers that are aware that they're going to move to this driverless situation in the future, but while buying trains, they want to start with drivers in either operation mode 2, so you have a driver, but you still have automatic train operation, or others. So we have solutions both in terms of the vehicle design and the signaling solution that allows this incremental change to fully automated through the life of the vehicle. Eco-design. So again, this is central to our approach, and we have been challenging ourselves on eco-design criteria, and we have regular published KPIs throughout the company that sees all our progress towards our targets that were set. So we baselined all our products in 2014, and we report every 6 months on any development any of our product teams and research and development teams are achieving, and we show the progression across all our products. So as part of our AIM 2025 strategy, we'd initially set a reduction target of 25% from that 2014 baseline. We're currently at 22% average across all our products, and with the developments that are currently ongoing, we'll exceed the 25% target by 2025. And we're now revising the target to be 30% by 2030. So as well as energy, we also look at recyclability. So we currently have in excess of 96% recyclability on our products. The target is to achieve 98%, but now we're looking much more at use of recycled material in the original vehicle. So we currently achieve around 25% recycled material, and we've set a target of 50% recycled material being used on the new trains by 2050. So key to a lot of what we're trying to do here is to think much simpler and much more frugal around the systems to allow us to minimize impact on our planet. As well, within that life cycle, eco-design is a well process managed. It's a robust process. We have ISO standards. So we have an extensive team of specialist engineers looking at this and managing it all the time. So for all our products, for all the projects and all the developments we do, this is a key aspect of how we manage going forward. As I mean, for quite some years, we've been very aware of inclusive design. So the design for all principles. So that has stemmed out, there's a lot of legislation now in parts of the world on disability access and inclusive design. But over the last 2.5 years, we've been very active on healthier mobility. So previously we knew about pollution and all these impacts on our population, but I think now we also have the recognition that, as was mentioned in the earlier presentations, some of the travelling public have still lost a bit of confidence in public transport. So we need to be coming up with solutions that help people really regain their confidence that public transport is the best solution. And because of the predictions, as we said at the start, where we have 200 or 300% increase in need for public transport going forward, we have to come up with solutions that allow that. So about 2.5 years ago, due to the pandemic, we set up a team and a separate R&D budget, which was specifically looking at developing solutions to combat COVID in public transport. So these fall into 5 sort of key areas. So air treatment, so looking at how we actually air condition, how we manage the ambient air, and how we purify the air. So we have a variety of solutions, from the type of filters that are allowing 90 plus, 99% plus of the pollutants to be filtered out. We have new solutions called air loop, which allow us to much more locally control the air conditioning so it's not spreading around the train. Then we have developed a lot of products on cleaning and disinfection. So as well as this, there's a lot of analysis and development around the use of UV lighting to help us remove any impact on the vehicle from its previous use. As well as this, developing with a range of manufacturers surface treatments that allow us to have an interior environment that people are still comfortable touching and using in the sort of daily use of that train. And then we've spent a lot of time looking at how people actually move off the platform onto the train, around the train, and try to see how we can better manage that, how we can design the layout of our internal seating, our internal grab handles to really control passenger flow in a better way, to allow social distancing if that's what people want, and to manage the density of people on the vehicle. And then again, contactless mobility solutions. So we've worked extensively on how people interact with doors and other parts of the train. We've even developed a specific solution where people have their own personal handle that allows them to clip on to the train rather than touching part of the train already. So these are all really focused on helping people regain confidence that urban transport and public transport specifically is the only way for the future. As I said, one of our big successes has been the development of this antiviral filter that we've now built into all of our new products. So this allows almost 100% bacteria reduction and just short at 99.8% of virus reduction. So this has been a key. It's gone through a lot of testing. We've got quite a few different manufacturers of these filters involved in the program, and this could be quite a key success factor for us going forward. So just in conclusion then, so our urban platform vision is based around what we call resilience. So it's about ensuring that our products are always reliable, easy to maintain, that they're safe, they're inclusive, they have low impact on the environment, and they're connected. And then overall as well, that it's an efficient product and not just how it's used, but the energy it consumes, etc. So our key objective here is really to look at a frugal approach. So it's not about always thinking about how to add more, it's about how to have less, and how public transport is almost something that's invisible in the way we use it. It's intuitive, it's very simple, and that also goes for how we maintain it as well. So the design of the train should be efficient, it should be restrained, and it should be easy to maintain. So part of that is always around having feedback of the in-service performance of our products. So again, we have a lot of maintenance contracts within our company, within our portfolio. So we have the ability to then get actual return on experience from a lot of our products and start to really analyze what makes things work well, how that allows us to improve for the future, and then that feeds back into our next generation of solutions and designs. So, as I said, a lot of our innovation programs and our budgets are focused on inclusive and planet-friendly performances. So we don't always see technology as an end, we see it as an enabler. So we need to look at the needs of the people using the system and then really understand how our technologies can solve that problem, rather than designing a technology and then trying to find an answer or question for it. And then retain and attract passengers. So this is quite key. So this is why inclusive, safe, sustainable and resilient are critical in everything we do. I mean, we already know from customers like London Underground that the reliance on public transport is so critical that if in sort of peak times in the day, if a train was to stop for 15 minutes, the amount of passengers in the train network spill out onto the streets, and they have to shut parts of the road network to make it safe. So the more we need and rely on public transport, the more reliable that public transport needs to be. So it needs to always be available. It needs to always work, basically. So that's why we have this resilience as a key part of what we're trying to do. So it's making sure the architectures of our train are always robust to failure. The train's intelligent enough to know when something's not operating in its optimal performance, and it tells the depot or it tells the control center that it needs to be looked at the next time it's in the depot ahead of any failures. So understanding both the sort of prognostics and the condition-based state of the train is key when we've got a fully automated railway and when it's one that's so critical to the operation of a city. So again, so frugality, inclusivity and resilience are the sort of key parts of what we think we need to always be ensuring in operation of our trains. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, very nice presentation. So here we have one of the panelists is Pak Agung Sedayu. He is a business director of PT Inka, a domestic rolling stock manufacturer who deliver our rolling stock, even for not only for the mainland, but now they deliver many also to our urban transport, yeah, for the LRTs, yeah. So I believe in the Q&A, he will ask you a lot of questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to fourth speaker. This is the most interesting, complicated, and I don't know how to say it. Yeah. So far, because I would like to invite Mrs. Martha Lawrence. Yeah. Mrs. Martha Lawrence, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Happy to be here.
I have to say good afternoon or good morning. Where are you?
Actually, I'm in Dhaka, Bangladesh right now.
Oh, Bangladesh. Okay. So I have to say good afternoon. It's still okay, yeah? Still
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This is now, I think, a very important, yeah, for speaker. This is very complicated. So I know that how to finance, yeah, how to finance the urban transport, yeah. So we think that 10 years ago, a lot of people coming to our country presenting about PPP. So we think that PPP is a magic, but in fact, after that, not so many developed by PPP scheme, yeah, for the urban transport. Maybe you will give us explanation why it's not working, yeah. So, oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I forget because the topic is very interesting. I forget to introduce Ms. Martha Lawrence. Ms. Martha Lawrence is from the World Bank. She is a senior railway specialist. So I believe she is very competent for delivering the speech. So yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Martha Lawrence, for being one of our speakers for this webinar. So without further ado, please, I invite you to deliver your speech.
Thank you very much. Could I ask you to load your colleagues to load my slides, please?
So, sure, yeah, sure. Slide, Panitia. Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. So urban rail projects can bring enormous benefits, but as we've heard today, in $65 billion of investments, they are costly. In low and middle income countries, they are often the largest infrastructure investments undertaken by government. Obtaining funds to pay for the projects of such magnitude can be difficult. And we've seen, in fact, that the failure to mobilize appropriate funding and financing is one reason why many urban rail projects failed to advance beyond their initial planning. Next slide, please. Any discussion of financing strategy needs to start with a clear understanding of the difference between financing and funding. Financing provides the upfront money needed to make the costs of developing and constructing the project. It's the process of converting future cash flows into money now that can be used for investment, but it's not free. Financing money must be paid back with interest or with dividends added. It's important that a reliable source of funds is identified to pay back the financing and to pay for the project's operating and maintenance costs. So funding is this long-term revenue stream that provides the foundation for financing. And just to give a humble example, if I want to build a house, my salary from working at the World Bank is the funding that will pay for the house. I turn that funding into financing by going to a bank and getting a mortgage. The bank gives me money up front to buy the house, and I give them my obligation to pay the money back over time with interest. The mortgage the financial instrument fixes a timing problem with my funding, but my funding has to be there. The financing instrument cannot fix a lack of funding. So let me emphasize that funding is the foundation for any financing, and financing alone cannot fix a funding problem. So reliable sources for funding are necessary to make financing possible and to ensure the long-term financial viability of the investment. Next slide. Funding for urban rail projects comes primarily from user or fare box revenues. While fare revenues vary across urban rail systems based on ridership levels and fare policies, they're rarely quite enough to cover the operations and maintenance costs, let alone the capital expenditure on most systems. On rough average, user fares cover only about 75% of operating costs of urban rail systems globally. This leaves most systems with a funding gap. Next slide, please. Closing this funding gap requires reliable and stable streams of public funds from government budgets. Sources typically include general taxes collected by the national government, such as income taxes, or local governments, such as property taxes, as well as intergovernmental transfers. Next slide, please. An example of this funding approach is the urban rail system in Buenos Aires. Subsidies to public transport were introduced as a social policy during the economic crises of the 2000s. In Argentina, the national government is responsible for paying the subsidies for suburban rail, and the city is responsible for paying subsidies for metro. Public transit is now considered a vital social service in this city, where, at least prior to COVID, 43% of all trips were on public transport. The challenge with this approach is its cost. In Buenos Aires, subsidies to the public transport, including buses, were equivalent to about $3.1 billion in 2021. That's about 0.72% of GDP. Next slide, please. With public budgets under growing pressure, some urban rail systems are learning to leverage non-fare commercial revenues as an additional source of funding. Sources of non-fare commercial revenues include advertising, leasing of commercial spaces, naming rights on stations, and merchandising. In some urban rail systems, these alternative sources of revenue have become significant, even approaching 20% of total revenues. But that still leaves fare revenue and government transfers as the main sources of revenue. Next slide, please. A benchmark analysis of urban railways shows that about half of the railways in the benchmark group are able to cover their operations and maintenance costs from fare revenue and plus other commercial revenues. A small number generated enough revenue to fund renewals and enhancements, while only a couple generated enough revenue to contribute to initial capital costs. So clearly, additional funding will be needed to develop urban rail. Next slide. Another source of funding that can be leveraged for urban rail projects is land value capture. The increase in accessibility that comes from urban rail development means people are willing to pay more for land around stations, creating an increase in land value. Cities around the world are capturing such value increases and using the resources to fund urban rail infrastructure development and operations and maintenance costs. Next slide. In general, two types of land value capture can be used to leverage the increase in land prices associated with urban rail development: tax or fee-based land value capture and development-based land value capture. Tax-based land value capture uses new or existing forms of local government land or property taxes as an independent source of revenue. Development-based land value capture harnesses the increase in property value of station areas and other land adjacent to the urban rail system through land sales or leasing, joint development, land readjustment, or sale of air rights. In places with high urban density, land value capture can be a powerful funding tool. Just two cautions on land value capture. Neither form of land value capture is a quick real estate flip. The increase in land value happens mostly after the urban rail project is built and operating and may take a considerable number of years to materialize. And from the perspective of the railway, land value capture typically requires sound private sector real estate expertise. And most railways are neither private sector nor expert in real estate development. So if you see potential in land value capture, definitely need to hire in real estate experts and partner with real estate developers for this. Next slide, please. So land value capture helps governments recoup part of their investments in urban rail infrastructure by capturing a portion of property value increases. If this is combined with transit-oriented development, it can create a very virtuous cycle. The land value capture can help offset the additional expenditure needed to acquire new plots of land, improve public spaces, provide transfer facilities for buses and bicycles, or engage in joint development opportunities as part of transit-oriented development. In turn, transit-oriented development's additional investment around station areas improves the potential for financial and economic returns that can be captured as land value. Next slide, please. Washington Metro provides an example of land value capture being used to support urban rail. Washington Metro serves the city of Washington, D.C., and surrounding areas in 2 states, including Arlington and Fairfax counties, and the city of Alexandria in the state of Virginia, and Montgomery and Prince George's counties in the state of Maryland. The original system was built using a combination of national, state, and local funding. And operations are funded through ticket revenues, advertising, a modest amount of real estate leasing revenues, and subsidy from the 6 different jurisdictions that it serves. These 6 different local governments have a compact or an agreement about how the subsidy costs will be shared, and they have representatives on the board overseeing the Metro agency. Now, a few years back, they initiated an extension called the Silver Line. And this extension of the Silver Line employs tax-based land value capture through a special real estate tax increment on commercial properties near the new Metro line. For the most part, this has been accepted by the real estate developers who realized that their commercial property lease rates were falling behind those of other commercial real estate in the region that were served by Metro. So they wanted to be served by Metro too, and agreed to a tax increment, which is currently 20 cents per $100 of assessed value on the property, and it will be used to pay the county's debt incurred for the project. Next slide, please. Now, let's turn from funding to financing. Financing comes in two major types, public and private. Public financing refers to financing provided to governments or government-dependent state-owned enterprises by any entity, including development banks, such as the World Bank, without exposure to project performance risk. Much of the financing for urban rail projects comes from this public financing. Private financing refers to a loan, bond, or equity investment provided to a private entity or a financially independent SOE with the expectation of reasonable return on investment. Private financing can be further divided into corporate financing with the risks linked to the performance of a company, and project financing with risks linked to the performance of a particular investment project. Availability of private capital for urban rail projects remains somewhat limited, and even when available, private financing may not be mobilized with the cost and terms to maturity required to make urban rail projects financially viable. So in many cases, we are looking at public financing. Next slide, please. I'd just like to take a minute at this point to talk about PPPs. I think that the question of why they're challenging and sometimes don't work was put to me, so I'll take it on. People often talk about PPPs as if they are a financing mechanism. I disagree. PPPs are more about the project delivery mechanism than about financing. The main reason to do a PPP is to transfer some project risk and responsibility to the private sector. And there are good reasons to do this. It might be because in your circumstance, the private sector can manage the risk of the project better than the public sector. Or the private sector brings a necessary skill to the project that the railway lacks, like possibly real estate development. Or we think that the private sector can construct or operate the project more efficiently than the public sector. Or that the PPP creates incentives for service, quality, and market development that might otherwise be lacking. These are all positive reasons to enter into a PPP. But just remember that PPP financing is typically more expensive than sovereign or corporate financing, because the investor's only recourse for payment is the project. And remember that PPPs are complex to design and tender and require ongoing capacity to supervise effectively. So PPPs should be done when the benefits for the project outweigh the negatives. And if only financing is needed, PPPs are unlikely to be the best solution. Next slide, please. If more than financing is needed, there are a broad range of project delivery models. They differ based on how responsibility for the project design, construction, operations, and maintenance, and financing are allocated among the parties, either public or private. There's no one delivery model that works best for all projects. So it's important for the project implementing agency to understand and consider all alternatives in the spectrum of options during project planning and early design to determine what model offers the best solution for the given project. Next slide. These delivery models break down into what we call traditional, alternative, and PPP approaches. Traditional projects were delivered using a design, bid, build model. This model breaks up project delivery into separate design and construction contracts financed by the public sector. After construction, operations and maintenance can be run by the public sector or outsourced to a private sector concessionaire. This delivery model gives the project implementing agency significant control over the project as it develops, but it is often slow and requires the management of multiple parties and interfaces particularly between design and construction. Next slide, please. The alternative project delivery models include construction manager, design build finance, or engineering, procurement, and construction. Many of these alternative delivery models speed up project delivery and eliminate interfaces between design and construction by combining them into a single contract. In doing so, the public project implementing agency cedes significant control over the project implementation to the private sector contractor. Next slide. The public-private partnerships involves a long-term contract that transfers more risk and management responsibility from the public sector to the private party. These arrangements often bundle together design, construction, and operations and maintenance under a single contract, with remuneration linked to system performance or ridership. In some PPPs, the private party is also responsible for raising a significant part of the financing for the project. Next slide. Governments around the world are increasingly using PPPs to develop, upgrade, or manage urban rail projects. However, I have to admit, performance of these PPPs has been mixed. Many operations and maintenance concessions in urban rail have been successful in improving performance and financial sustainability. PPP contracts for larger, more complex urban rail projects involving design, construction, and operations and maintenance have proven more difficult to structure and sustain. Historically, these projects have often suffered delays, cost overruns, and contract defaults. And some of these challenges can be seen in the São Paulo PPPs I'll describe in the next couple of slides. Therefore, I think we need to be careful that PPPs should not be seen as a panacea. Instead, they should be considered as one of the many options for project delivery. Next slide. So I'm going to summarize here a series of PPP projects that were done in São Paulo for the urban rail with different structures and different outcomes. The first São Paulo PPP was for a greenfield line. The public sector was responsible to build the lines, tunnels, and tracks, while the private sector supplied the systems, the rolling stock, and operated the system. The private sector received fare box revenue and an availability payment. Now, in Brazil, the state government is responsible for railways and provides the funding for availability payments included in the PPP structure. And the term you'll see on the slide of a technical fare arises because in São Paulo, there are integrated transit fares linking all forms of transit under one ticketing system to promote multimodal connectivity. That's very important for the efficient operation of the system. The user pays once and the service providers share the revenue on an agreed basis through a clearinghouse. So on this first PPP, the challenges were there was only one bidder. It was the first time that they had put out a PPP and the market was a bit skeptical. And there were also some contractual challenges because the government was supposed to do the construction and the construction fell behind on delivery. Next slide, please. In the next PPP for the Orange Line, construction risk was transferred to the private sector in a full design, build, finance, operate, and maintain structure. The private sector was compensated through fare box revenue, availability payment, and commercial revenues such as advertising and station retail. There was an estimate that the commercial revenues would be 8% of revenue, and the contractor was to share commercial revenues with the government if they went over 20% of revenue. This one had experienced a corruption scandal and it had to be restructured to bring in a new operator. Next PPP was the first to bundle together a high traffic line with a low traffic line. In this PPP, the public sector was responsible for construction, the private sector for operations and maintenance. The private sector received fare box revenues and commercial revenues, which were forecast to be 12% of total, and were to be shared with the government if they exceeded 20%. The concession in this case was expected to be profitable, and the private sector bid a premium. This PPP generally went well, but had some issues of conflict with bus operators, highlighting the importance of integrating the rail and other transit modes in a cooperative network structure. Next slide, please. Okay, one more slide forward, please. The fourth PPP involved existing lines with established ridership. The private sector was to invest in rolling stock and line upgrading and to be paid the fare box revenue plus commercial revenues, estimated at 5% of total. The successful bidder pledged to invest $650 million in upgrades in rolling stock and bid twice the minimum premium. So this one seems to have been fairly successful. Next slide, please. So what does all this mean for Indonesia? Well, I hope I've convinced you these past few minutes that the starting point for financing rail transit development in Indonesia starts with putting together a funding plan. The reality is that in most places, passenger fares will only cover part of the operating and maintenance costs of the service. Non-fare commercial revenue may cover another fraction, but still, the railway likely cannot expand services without losing money and will not be able to pay for the capital investment. So we have to think about how the funding gap is going to be filled. Can the municipality cover the gap on a reliable basis? Do they have the resources to do that? Could the municipalities develop a land value capture scheme that contributes, perhaps dedicating a share of their real estate taxes from areas around the stations to support urban rail? If not, can the national government provide funding? I know these are not easy questions, but they are fundamental. There's no magic about financing urban rail. The funding has to come from somewhere. And once we've sorted the funding issue, there's all kinds of options that exist for structuring the project delivery, structuring the funds flow, and structuring the financing to provide the best incentives and the best value for money. World Bank has experience with railway reform and urban rail in many other countries and can support the government of Indonesia in strengthening the railway sector. So we'd be most honored to help you with these questions. Next slide. Thank you very much. And I'm putting up here links to two of our resources on railway reform and urban rail development. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for very professional presentation, Mrs. Martha Lawrence. Very professional. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we go to the second session. Before go to the second session, please allow me to introduce three of our panelists. So first panelist is Pak Muhammad Effendi. Pak Muhammad, apa kabar Pak? Masih mute kayaknya Pak.
Baik Pak, Alhamdulillah.
Ya.
Pak Linus.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Pak Muhammad Effendi is Director of Operation and Maintenance of PT Jakarta MRT. Yeah. So second panelist will be Pak Agung Sedayu. Selamat malam Pak Agung Sedayu, kabar baik?
Selamat malam Pak, kabar baik. Selamat malam Pak.
Madiun atau di Jakarta?
Ya, Pak. Madiun Bapak.
Oh Madiun. Oke Pak. Ladies and gentlemen, Pak Agung Sedayu, he is a Director of Business Development of PT Inka. Yeah. Okay. And the third panelist is Profesor Siti Malkamah. Malam Bu Prof.
Selamat malam. Terdengar suara saya?
Dengar. Jelas Bu. Clear. Oke. Okay. Bu Profesor Siti Malkamah is a teacher in UGM, Universitas Gadjah Mada. She is I think very expert in traffic ya Bu ya?
Ya. Ya.
Traffic ya. Okay, I think I will ask for the panelists to give some question or comment for all of our speaker, So I think I have to start from Pak Muhammad Effendi, Pak. Please, Pak.
Oke, terima kasih Pak. Thank you very much Pak Linus Sijabat. Good afternoon, all the presenters. Thank you very much. Also good afternoon to other panelists, Ibu Siti Malkamah dan Pak Agung Sedayu, apa kabar Pak? Also Pak Direktur Sarana, Pak Jarod. Selamat malam. Okay, Pak Linus, since there are 3 panelists, maybe to be fair, I will have only maybe 1 question for each presenter first.
Okay.
Yeah, I will start from Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. The presentation is, excellent. Very inspirative for us. Like you share about the 5 cultures, and then about the trend of safety. The more investment you increase, the less accident happen. Yeah. To Mr. to Kazuhiko-san, maybe I will have 2 questions, Pak Linus.
Yep,
first,
please, Pak.
From your 5 cultures, you change about there is about the what do you call to be changed effective. I know that in Japan, you are very respect to the seniority. In one of your culture, you wrote that offensive and then open discussion. In my experience dealing with the Japanese, they are very respect in the senior, even they cannot talk frankly. So how you can you elaborate how explain to us to change this culture, because it is for me it is quite strange if in Japan. And then second thing about the obstacle detector, how effective this equipment to prevent from the accident. And then second thing to Colin Scott, also very good presentation. My question is about the yes, the strategy. You'll have a greener what do you call leader. Then with your customer that you already have the conventional trend set, how you encourage them to replace or at least to provoke them to change with the new model of the trend set. And then second thing, for the like the battery trend set, how you will dispose the used battery and then to meet the environmental friendly. So this is my question to you. And then to from the World Bank, Miss Martha Lawrence. Yeah, you know, PPP in Indonesia is quite challenging. Most of our experience, especially like in MRT Jakarta, is not easy for the new line because the fare box is still quite low. Any suggestion from you? How you? Your suggestion from you? How to make the PPP can be implemented very well in Indonesia? That's all, Pak Jinus. Thank you very much.
Okay, Pak. I think before all the speakers answer the question, I think we go to the second panelist, Pak Agung. Please, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Linus. I just want to comment to Mr. Scott from the Alstom. Alstom, as a railway solution company, has a proven technology for urban transport that support the sustainable transport. Use the energy reduction in solution, maybe And the step 2 is to new development solution and recycle content in rolling stock solution. For the energy reduction, maybe Indonesia already applied for the KOA3 to management, so the energy can be managed very well. But how to capture the technology during the braking, this is still not have a technology, maybe by the battery in the substation. And for the new energy, maybe they still far away from Indonesia, maybe for the hydrogen or for the another green energy. So for your point of view, which step for Indonesia first to make a sustainable transportation in the operation in Indonesia for the near future? Thank you very much, Mr. Scott and Pak Linus.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agung. For the Bu Malkamah, please, Bu Malkamah.
Thank you, Pak Linus. Thank you for inviting me. I have questions to Ibu Marta from World Bank. Yes, on page 8, you presented that some of countries in Asia, they are able to cover the costs for operation, maintenance, even for the renewals and enhancements. Could you elaborate more, like what country, and then what is the key of success, so that maybe we can learn from that? And then the second one, as you can see that Indonesia has a very good target, maybe quite high, so that the railway share will be increased 7 to 9% for passengers and 11 to 13% for freight. And then there will be saved, the PPP will be 64%, while the government funding will be 36%. It's very different from the existing one. Do you have any comments on that? And then do you have any opinions about that? That do you think that it is more challenging for us, or it is a good sign for us? And then I have a questions to Pak Kazuhiko Aida from GR East. Yeah. You mentioned that safety is the top priority, and also accident prevention is very, very important. And then technologies and human resources are very important also. So you have like education and training to increase the capacity of the human resources. Could you explain more about your experience in collaboration between the government and then industry and also the universities to achieve your goals in safety, and then in a better services to meet the customers' expectation, etc., etc. Thank you very much, Pak Linus. That's all from me.
Thank you. Terima kasih, Prof. Okay, speaker, first I want to go to Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. I think there is some question from Pak Muhammad Effendi from Jakarta MRT regarding the culture, the 5 culture you mentioned in your presentation.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Actually, the first question is the seniority, about seniority. Yes, seniority does exist in a company, but in front of train operations, that seniority doesn't help anything, just a nuisance. Just so to ensure safety, seniority cannot solve the problems. So actually, but seniority does exist. So what we can do is just enhance or encourage every single person to participate in the discussions sincerely. And in sincere discussion, solve the problems, and without people feeling any kind of the sense of seniority things. Just a sincere discussion is going on among them. That's the point, I think. And actually, the second question, I can't hear clearly because information display.
The obstacle. Yeah.
Obstacles.
Siapa yang nanya? Mikrofon.
Kau Susan, in your page number 5.
Okay. Actually, I don't have any data right now on the statistics. Resulting from those devices. Maybe there will be homework from me. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Ya, mungkin dijawab. Maybe you can directly email Pak Effendi ya. And Mr. Kazuhiko.
Yes.
Aida, there is a question from Professor Siti Malkamah, regarding the safety and accident, safety accident. You mentioned that you have what do you call it? The education center.
Yes.
Education center. So the question from Professor Malkamah is how can you elaborate more? Is that involved between the three? We call it triple helix. Indonesia we have triple helix. So government, industry, and satu lagi apa ya? University, ya. Government, industry, and university. Do you involve both three of them, or only from the
in terms of
side?
In terms of general education center, it's run by us, only us.
Actually, only by GR, you mean, yeah?
Yeah, okay. Budget, yes. And from time to time, we invite the external experts to the courses, but actually run by us.
So you mean external is from university or from the government?
As a professor, as an instructor or professor, we invite external people to the courses organized in the center. Yes, and in terms of collaboration with university, actually we contribute. With the universities, we create kind of classes. I don't know how to say it in English, but there is some collaboration with the universities to create some specific lecture in those universities. That's the one thing. And in terms of government, yes, actually, we are not funded by the government. We run by ourselves. So actually, we kind of arm's length body, and not arm's length body. It's really a private company. So its relation from the government is not exist anymore. But the government, the Ministry of Transport, is supervising us. So we constantly have a discussions in terms of anything. In issues,
here in Indonesia we have regulatory normally covered by government, regulatory, and then if it more in scientific it covered by university, like reliability, a lot of mathematical and what they call it algorithm there, how to do it, and industry normally they only cover the practical side, How about in Japan?
Yeah, actually, almost the same. I mean, in a technical perspectives, we collaborate with the universities. Yes. More kind of the government governance things, and not governance. It's management perspective. We get a discussion with the governments or local municipals also. Does that answer the questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, but I still want to explore more about that. In Indonesia here, we from the what you call it, industry and regulatory, they send the people to university to get education for let's say master degree, also like what you call it, master degree to get more knowledge, on science about the railway. It's same.
You mean our company? Do you mean our companies send our employees to the
to university?
Yeah, yes, we have kind of system. Yes, we have.
Okay, thank you, Kazuhiko-san. Before I go to the second speakers, I would like to ask you from myself. In your first presentation, you mentioned about actual, its actual location, actual object, and actual people. It is contradictory with nowadays because everything is online. Like this is webinar. We're not actual, right? But why still it depends on the actual? How important is that?
Actually, solutions and the clues to solutions can be found at on-site. The actually on-site of accidents. So you just go there and investigate or actually without going to the on-site, it's really hard to see what exactly happens. What is the real cause behind the accident? Yeah, just go to the on-site. Yeah, I mean, discussion on web is okay, but actually, at least, how do I say? I should say that somebody should go to the on-site and see what's going on-site.
How important is it? Because like now, if I cross the traffic light, So in Indonesia now we don't know. We get the ticket in the site, but the ticket go directly to my home, maybe to my phone, directly to my phone, and I have to pay. So you are like expecting that police come to you, right, to your home and give you a ticket, right? But this is not. Okay, now I go to the second speaker. I think a very complicated one will be Mrs. Martha Lawrence, but before we go to the very complicated, I go to Mr. Colin. Mr. Colin, Pak Effendi have question for you regarding how you convince the conventional, your customer is conventional, and you now introduce the new train, eco train. How you convince them that? How important is that? How to convince your customer?
I mean, clearly, there's a lot of motivations for changing a product. So we have, based on the customer, some it's purely because it's life expired, the product, obsolescence. But clearly, a lot of customers are very conscious of total cost of ownership now. So we have solutions now that allow us to take full ownership for the life. So we sell not just the train, but we sell the full service package with the train as well. And then we're guaranteeing that optimal performance for 30 years or something. So depending on the customer, and this varies quite greatly around the world, how much the motivation is around operational cost, life cycle cost, and total cost of ownership are all the things that will really determine what solution they want to secure for themselves.
Okay. Pak Effendi, is it ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is answer my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think you have still another question from Pak Agung Sedayu regarding how to get the energy back from the train. You mentioning it is, I think, technology you mentioned in your presentation is to the super cab or to the substations. How to get, which one is cost effective?
So clearly, I mean, the most cost effective is when we make the train brake using the electric motors instead of a friction brake. that generates power back into the train. So the first, most optimal solution is that we use that power instantly. But if we don't need that power on the train, then we can feed it back through the substation and then use it around the station or that environment local to that substation. And ultimately, we can feed it back into the power grid. So a bit like people with solar panels on the roof, if they don't use it in their house, they can feed it back into their national power company's power grid and they get credit for that power.
So between the battery and supercap, which one you think more effective?
They are all effective in different ways for different solutions. I mean, we have done a lot of development and looked at how we have a lot of batteries on a train so we can do full traction for 2 or 3 kilometers. But the power density, you need to have a very high voltage battery and the duty cycle becomes a bit of a problem. So you end up potentially carrying 5, 6, 7 tons of extra batteries to allow that to happen. So in terms of traction moves under battery, we find it's better to do it where there is a power outage, so it's a short term into the station, or in the depot where in terms of infrastructure investment in a new depot, if you don't want to invest in the third rail or the catenary in the depot, you can use the train's batteries to allow limited movements around that depot. Now, supercaps, again, have their pros and cons, and we predominantly use them with our tram vehicles because they suit the small burst of energy. When they go into the next station, we have different solutions of getting inductive power below the train, etc., that allows us to rapidly recharge, and then it fires it on to the next platform, basically. So the sort of high density, low density and battery. So metros and our very high speed trains that take a lot of power, that's when we find things like this HESOP solution allows us to instantly generate power, use it either on the traction, on the auxiliaries on the train, or feed it back into the substation in the local area. Whereas something like a regional train that's not got the high acceleration, has a reasonable gap between stations, hydrogen's the better solution. And then for things like our freight locomotives, where we have the last mile to the depot, hydrogen is also a good solution in that environment. The batteries, we do have both pure battery train and we have battery electric trains that are just using a short period under battery, but predominantly it's under power. So it's all very much down to the operational requirements. There's no one answer that fits all.
Yeah, regarding another question for Agung is that the hydrogen is it? I think in Indonesia cases, do you think now we have to move to hydrogen because Pak Agung Sedayu not so sure regarding that our need for the hydrogen?
Again, I mean, hydrogen, it's a great solution if you have the infrastructure, and clearly investing in the infrastructure if you don't already has it. So Germany has been an early adopter because it has a lot of infrastructure already existing for hydrogen generation. So it's an easy transition for them. But we would need to look at each individual case to see what the best approach is. It's, as I said, it's not one solution fits all. It's very much operation and infrastructure dependent.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Pak Agung, is that answer your question, Pak?
I think there was another question about batteries as well, wasn't there?
Yeah. Hello, Pak Agung.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
You already answered my question.
Cukup ya, Pak Agung ya?
Cukup, Pak.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Now is the very complicated one. I'd like to go to the speaker, Mrs. Martha Lawrence. Yeah, Pak Muhammad Effendi asking regarding the PPP, how to implement PPP in Indonesia because the fare book is very low. Is still possible or not?
Well, certainly it's possible, because as I explained before, it's really more PPP is a project delivery mechanism, not just a financing mechanism.
Financing, yeah.
So definitely possible, and what we need to do is structure it so we harness what the private sector is good at and doing and can do better than the public sector, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to also recognize that the public sector is good at some things. So I think your panelists asked all the tough questions about what are the keys to success in the railways that had fairly high cost recovery and could contribute to some of their expenses. I mean, honestly, these are the ones that have the higher fares. They're also the ones that tend to be very commercially managed. So I think those are the two things that contribute to that. Being commercially managed helps manage the costs. It also creates the incentives to make the most of the commercial revenue opportunities. The other questions you asked, I think with any PPP, we have to look at very, very carefully at both the funding and the financing to see how to make it work best and how to get the best out of both the public and the private sector. So yes, I think your targets of increase in passenger share and increase in freight share are ambitious but doable, and we would love to help you work on doing those. And increasing, I believe what you mean is the share of financing to 64% from private sources. Also a very challenging target, but I really can't comment on that without looking at the specific projects and because I think each project needs a funding plan and then a financing plan.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think very interesting regarding your presentation between the land value capture and TOD. Yeah. So in Indonesia, I believe that when we build our railway, especially for the urban transport, it's very expensive, especially for the land acquisition. I believe you know that because we don't have any land before. So now we take all the possible curve to make the line, so to get the railway track. And then besides all the station is already belong to the third party, some real estate, not belong to the government. So how do we get it between the LVC and TOD in that case?
Well, I think I don't know the taxing structure in Indonesia, but most countries have a real estate tax on commercial real estate. So one way, like was done with the Silver Line extension for Washington Metro, is to impose an increment to the real estate tax that is dedicated and targeted to paying for the expansion of the metro.
So you mean more of the revenue from the government is more from the tax of the real estate, you mean?
That's certainly one mechanism that's been used pretty successfully.
Okay. Pak Effendi, is that asking you a question?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrence. Great answer.
So I believe you are struggling for the second phase, for the second phase of the Jakarta MRT,
Yeah, Pak. What also relevant about the land price, land cost?
Ms. Martha Lawrence, there's a question from Professor Siti Malkama regarding the portion of the PPP. What is the percentage for the private and what is the percentage for the government? So what the moderate or what you call it, is possible, yeah, like in Indonesia case. Maybe you can get some PPP project with successful in some other countries. Sorry, I think it's still you still in mute.
Sorry about that. The challenges of these things online. So I think your question was, what proportion of financing and funding can we expect to come from the private sector? Is that correct?
Yeah. So the PPP case.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it really depends on the project and what the underlying revenue sources the project has. So certainly, if you're looking at increasing that 11% to 13% for freight, one would expect freight to be profitable and to be able to generate a very high proportion of the funding would come from commercial sources. Whereas on passenger, I think, you're always making a trade-off there between it's a public service, I want to keep it inexpensive so people will use it and not, crowd the city streets. And so that has a public aspect to it. And so each project is a little different in that. So I think it's really only fair to look at specific projects and make a judgment.
Okay, Bu Prof, gimana Prof menjawab?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Ibu Martha Lawrence. You answered my question. I think in the beginning, your answers, I think it's very, very clear. And also some additional explanation. I think, thank you very much. It helped. Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to ask for audience to ask a question you might have. I saw many in chat, but maybe you can directly just raise your hand. I think we still have time, about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, here is some question I get from the audience in chat. Is to Mr. Kazuhiko. Yeah, the question is, with the condition in Indonesia, the culture and level of education, can you suggest us how to prepare, build, and manage the safety of railway in Indonesia, especially to implement high-speed rail? Yeah.
Well, it's really difficult to answer.
High-speed rail, how? Because, it's very different, very different between the conventional rail and high-speed rail. Maintenance costs, maintenance SOP.
Actually, General Education Center has 2 courses. One is for conventional lines, and one is for high-speed trains. So situation's the same, I think. I mean, we have high-speed train operation as well as conventional line train operations. So the situations are the same. So we just built 2 courses for, and actually they're a common subject. So those common things we don't have to differentiate from like high speed and conventional lines, but whereas on the other hand, some parts are really different between the conventional lines and high speed lines. So we just set up the 2 courses, 2 different lessons. So that's the thing, and then just one single lesson, one single training is not enough to train stations, train staff members. So just I'm not sure it's a long process. Well, just yeah, it's sorry, it's a really tough question to answer. It's just to separate the courses. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kazuhiko-san. Kayaknya Pak Sinung mau nanya ya. Silakan Pak Sinung.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for board moderator. I have some question to Mr. Aida and Mr. Scott related to how can an R&D contribute to the railway development, especially for urban railway system. Furthermore, how is the working relationship between the railway research institution with the regulators, railway industry ecosystem, and the operators in operation level? Please discuss such implementation in respective country, for example, maybe in Japan or in Europe. It is important for us because we are from the National Research and Innovation Agency. Maybe we can make a future research together in the future. Thank you.
So your question is to Aida Sang and Mr. Scott, yeah? Okay, but first I would like to go Mr. Scott, please.
Yes, I mean, clearly this is quite an interesting point. So we have many different models about how we deal with R&D activities, how collaborative we are. We have both fairly short-term activities that we typically work with, say, a university or with some of the operators. Particularly in Europe, there's lots of big European funded projects that are collaborative across operators and multiple manufacturers at the same time. And then we have our own internally funded programs that are more long-term. So we tend to, because we're using our internal IPR and we're using our experts internally, those are things that we don't disclose until we're at the point where we're ready because of the IPR around them. But the challenge around, there's multiple different formats for tax relief, etc., in different countries on how you declare and work with R&D funding. So again, it's something that's very complex, and we have big teams of specialists looking after R&D funding and legal teams involved in that discussion as well. So it's a minefield in a way.
Penjawab Pak Sinung.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Maybe in the next time we can discuss in a component way or in more detail. So the R&D aspect can be supported in this case. Thank you, Pak, Mr. Scott.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Lim.
Okay. Here I get from very interesting question from Rutma Pujiwat. The question addressed to Martha Lawrence, Mr. Lawrence. The question is, from your experience, what is the best financing scheme for developing countries such as Indonesia, especially for developing high-speed rail? I think very tough question. I don't know how. Please, Ms. Martha Lawrence, suppose he's still with us.
Yes, I am still with you. And like I said, I seem to get all the really tough questions.
Yeah.
Well, I think on financing high-speed rail, as with all financing, you have to look at the underlying funding to understand whether you have enough passenger traffic at a sufficient rate that you can actually cover the costs of building the high-speed rail. If we look at China, for example, their scheme financing scheme was basically that the equity would be owned by the China Railway together with a local provincial government, with the provincial government paying for the cost of the land and that going into their share as their share of the equity into the project, and then raising about 50% above, so debt equity 50-50 of commercial debt. Now that has worked very well for the lines that have very high traffic. So the lines like Beijing to Shanghai, 35 million passengers a year, those are able to cover their debt costs and some return on equity. So really, it's got to be a financial analysis of what's your traffic, how much can people realistically pay, and have this be competitive, and what does that mean? Is there can ticket revenues cover the costs or not?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Martha Lawrence. So yeah, I think we are almost in the end of this second session. So for all the speakers, Pak Jarod, Aida Sang, and Mr. Colin Stott, and Ms. Martha Lawrence, and all panelists, Pak Muhammad Effendi, Pak Agung Sedayu, Bu Siti Malkamah, terima kasih banyak sudah ikut dalam webinar kita ini. Semoga apa yang sudah kita bahas dan dipresentasikan, terutama yang dipresentasikan oleh keempat speaker, ini berguna bagi kita. Mungkin ini ada rekamannya, mungkin kalau bisa dikirim ke masing-masing, karena tadi baik presentasi maupun jawabannya sangat profesional. Thank you very much for all of you. Thank you. So I will hand over back to Miss MC, to Miss Lestari Tanjung.
Yes, thank you so much, Bapak Linus, for bringing us to very interesting discussion for today. And now, as a token of our appreciation, I would like to hand over e-certificate and also a plaque for our speakers, panelists, and moderator. Okay, for the first one, to Mr. Zulma Fendi. Certificate and also a plaque. Thank you so much. For the next one, to Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. Thank you so much, Mr. Kazuhiko Aida. This is e-certificate and also a plaque. To the next one, Mr. Paloma Moran. This is e-certificate and also a plaque. Represented by Mr. Colin.
Thank you.
Mr. Colin Scott. This is e-certificate and also a plaque. Thank you so much. And for the next, Mrs. Martha Lawrence. And next to our panelists, Mr. Agung Sedayu. This is e-certificate and also a plaque. For the next, Mr. Muhammad Effendi. This is e-certificate from webinar Harhubnas 2022 and also apply. For the next, Professor Siti Malhama. This is e-certificate and also apply. Last but not least, Mr. Linus Andor Maulana Sijabat, our moderator. Thank you so much, Bapak Linus. Okay, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we have come to the end of our event for tonight. Through the presentation and discussion, we have grabbed the main idea about development strategy urban mass transport railways in Indonesia. Once again, thank you so much for all the speakers and also panelists and our moderator. From the deepest of my heart, I do apologize for any mistake in presenting this event. Thank you very much for your participation. Ales Tanjung is signing out. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bu Prof.
Terima kasih
Malam,
Prof. Pak Linus,
Horas,
banyak ya.
terima kasih semuanya.
Makasih banyak.
Terima kasih Pak Jarod, Pak Agung, Pak Muhammad Effendi dan semuanya.
Thank you Mr. Colin,
Sehat selalu.
Kak Suhida, Ida.
Terima kasih pada
Thank you.
saudara.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Oke, mohon izin Lab ya.
Thank you.
Bye. Pak Sinung. Malam Pak.
Terima kasih Pak Sinung.
Oke, mohon pamit. Sehat semua.
Pak Jarod, kasih katanya.
Riko dan tim. Riko.
Recordings.